I'd like to welcome you in this session, and in this session we are going mainly to talk about the dichotomous key. When we are looking at the dichotomous key, first of all, the word dichotomous comes from a word which has a di. That means that it is divided into two. Now when you put it together as a dichotomous key, it becomes the method for determining the identity of something by going through a series of choices that lead the person to the correct name of that particular item. And the dichotomous key has got choices, and in every step there are two choices. There are two questions that we ask ourselves that will lead us to the identity of that particular organism. Now, for example, if we want to construct a dichotomous key for the vertebrate classes, and the vertebrate classes includes the fish, the amphibian, the reptile, the birds, and the mammals. Those are the 5 classes in the vertebrates, and we want to identify them and find out which one is which. We are going to create a question, and we shall get the steps and the choices. The first one, we shall first put the first choice and ask ourselves 2 questions. We shall use the division of poikilothermic and homoeothermic and ask ourselves questions that which one of the following classes are homoeothermic and which one of the following classes are poikilothermic. Now, when you look at the fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals, you will find that the poikilothermics are the fish, amphibian, and the reptile. But because they are 3 in number, at the end of the sentence, the question, we cannot write their names there, but we can put a number. For example, in this case, we can put number 2 to lead us to another choice, choice 2, or alternative 2, question 2, which is going to help us to continue separating them. And when you look at the homoeothermic, we have class of the birds and the class of mammals. So we shall say that homoeothermic, let them go to number 4. Now we go to number 2, where we have pushed our poikilothermic classes. Now when we reach to number 2, we still ask ourselves questions, 2 questions. And this time, because remember we have the fish, the amphibian, and the reptile. This time we are going to use the limbs, and we say, of these organisms, which one of the following does not have limbs, and which one of the following has 4 limbs? Now when you look at the fish, amphibian, and the reptiles, you'll find that the fish does not have limbs, but it has fins. And the amphibian and the reptiles have got 4 limbs each. So at the end of the question, which one of the following has fin but has not have limbs, we can now put fish, because it is only the fish which has fins and does not have limbs. And then that question, still on number 2, the question which is, which one of the following has or have 4 limbs? We have the amphibians and the reptiles. But because they are 2, we cannot put them at the end of the question, because they are still 2. We need to separate them. So we say that those ones that have 4 limbs, let them go to number 3. Now, when we go to number 3, still we ask ourselves a question. Remember, now we have brought at number 3 the classes of organisms that have 4 limbs, and those ones are the amphibians and the reptile. Now, the question now we ask ourselves is going to be about the scales. Then we can say which one of the following has scales and which one of the following has no scales on the body. Now, if you look at the reptiles and look at the amphibians, you will find that the amphibians do not have scales on their body. Therefore, we write at the end of the question the identity of the amphibian. And then those ones which have scales, you'll find that among the reptiles and amphibians, it's the reptiles that have scales. And at the end of the question of the scales, we write there the identity of the reptiles. But in number 1, at the beginning, we asked ourselves a question: which one of the following are poikilothermic and which one of the following are homoithermic? We sent number or choice alternative 2, which was the question which was asking which one of the following are homoithermic. We had sent it to number 4. So now we come to number 4 and bring the homoiothermic organisms, which include the class of birds and the class of mammals. Now this time we are going to use the feathers and the fur. The question will be which one of the following has feathers, and then another question will be which one of the following has fur. Now when you look at the two, the birds and the mammals, you will find that the birds have feathers. So we put at the end of the question of the feathers, we put there the bird's identity. And the end of the question of fur, we put there the mammal's identity. Thereby, we would have finished constructing a dichotomous key for the vertebrate classes. We have said that dichotomous itself means to divide something into 2 parts. So you'll find that when we put the dichotomous key together, it becomes a method of identifying the identity of something by going through a series of choices that leads us to the identity of a particular organism. And when we are looking at the identification key, an example that we have given is the identification key for the vertebrate classes. And the vertebrate classes, we have 5 classes. We have the class of fish, class of amphibians, class of reptiles, class of birds, and class of mammals. So we want to separate them, and we have used the choices by putting at different numbers the choices and the questions. The first one, we asked ourselves about the homoiothermic and the poikilothermic. Then we sent the poikilothermic to number 2, and the homoiothermic we sent them to number 4. Then the second question, or the second number, we asked ourselves about the limbs, and then those ones which have limbs and those ones which do not have limbs. Remember, we were talking about the fish, the amphibians, and the reptiles. Because the fish has no limbs, we had to write it at the end because we have already separated it. But we remained with amphibians and the reptiles which have 4 limbs. So those ones we had to send them to number 3. And when we reached number 3, the amphibians and the reptiles, we had to divide them and we had to come up with a question. And the question we came up with was about the scales. And we're asking which one of the following has scales on the body and which one of the following has no scales. And when you look at the reptile and amphibians, you are going to find that the amphibians do not have scales on their body. So at the end of the question asking which one of the following has no scales, we put the identity of the amphibian. And the question which is asking which one of the following have scales, we put the identity of the reptile. Remember at the beginning we had homoeothermic and poikilothermic, and we had sent homoeothermic to number 4. Now when we come to number 4, we have the homoeothermic organism or homoeothermic classes, which include the birds and the mammals. Then we have to come up with questions like, which one of the following has feathers and which one of the following has fur? Now when you look at the mammals and look at the birds, you are going to find out that the birds have feathers and the mammals have fur. So at the end of the question of which one of the following has feathers, we are going to put there the identity of the birds, and which one of the following has fur, we are going to put there the identity of the mammals. So that's how we construct the dichotomous key. And next time when we come back, we are going to look at the construction of the identification of the kingdoms, or the dichotomous key for the kingdoms. And later on we shall look at the identification key for the insects. Please stay with us.